I was 47, living alone in a modest house on Cedar Lane, a quiet street where the days passed like pages in a half-read book. My name is Ellen, and for the past 3 years, I'd been a widow. My husband, Tom, had passed suddenly from a heart attack, leaving me in a world that felt too big, too empty. I filled my days with gardening, knitting, and the occasional book club, but the nights were harder. They stretched on, heavy with memories of Tom's laugh, his hand in mine. It was a crisp November night, the kind where the air bites your skin and the stars seem too sharp. I was curled up in my armchair, a cup of chamomile tea gone cold, flipping through an old photo album. Life had settled into a predictable rhythm, but deep down, I felt like I was just existing, not living. Have you ever felt like you're waiting for something to wake you up? If you have, hit that subscribe button. This story's about to shake things up. At midnight, a loud knock on my door snapped me out of my thoughts. My heart jumped. Cedar Lane was peaceful, the kind of place where the biggest drama was a misplaced recycling bin. No one knocked at this hour. I set the album down, my hands trembling slightly, and peered through the peephole. There he was, Mr. Hargrove, my grumpy neighbor from 2 houses down, in his late 60s, with a face like weathered stone and a reputation for scolding anyone who parked too close to his driveway. He was the last person I'd expect at my door. He stood there, clutching a small, battered box, his eyes darting nervously. Why was he here? If you got a knock like that, would you open the door? Keep watching, this gets wild. I hesitated. Hargrove and I weren't exactly on speaking terms. He'd once yelled at me for letting my roses creep over his fence, and I'd avoided him ever since. But something about his expression tonight wasn't his usual scowl. It was urgent, almost desperate. I cracked the door open, the chain still on. Hargrove, it's late. Is something wrong? I asked, my voice barely steady. He didn't look at me directly. Ellen, he said, his voice rough but strained. I was surprised he knew my name. We'd never been that neighborly. Take this. He pushed the box through the gap, his hands shaking. It was small, wooden, with a rusty latch and my initials ZM carved faintly on the lid. Don't open it yet, he said sharply. You'll know when. Just keep it safe. Before I could ask what he meant, he turned and hobbled back into the night, his coat flapping like a ghost in the wind. I locked the door, my pulse racing. The box felt heavier than it looked, like it held something alive. I set it on the kitchen table, staring at it under the dim light. Why me? Why now, Mr. Hargrove wasn't the type to play pranks, but this felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's story. I wanted to open it, to see what could possibly warrant a midnight visit, but his warning stopped me. You'll know when. I tried to go to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. The box was all I could think about, sitting there like a puzzle I wasn't ready to solve. Have you ever been handed something so strange you couldn't let it go? Comment below and let me know, because this story's about to take a turn you won't believe. The next morning, I woke up exhausted, the box still on the table. I hadn't slept well, my dreams a jumble of Tom's voice and locked doors. I made coffee, trying to shake the unease. The box looked older in daylight, its wood worn smooth, the latch rusted but sturdy. My initials stared back at me, raising more questions than answers. How did Mr. Hargrove have this? Had Tom known him better than I thought? I'd never seen them speak, but Tom had always been the friendly one, chatting with neighbors while I kept to myself. I decided to confront Hargrove. I needed answers. I walked to his house, the autumn leaves crunching under my boots, but his curtains were drawn, and his car was gone. The place felt abandoned, like he'd vanished. Back home, I stared at the box again, my curiosity warring with caution. I called my friend Clara, who lived a few streets over and always had a knack for calming my nerves. Ellen, that sounds creepy, she said when I told her. Maybe it's just junk. Why don't you open it? I wanted to, but something held me back. Fear, maybe, or a gut feeling that this was bigger than I understood. That evening, I couldn't resist. I grabbed a screwdriver and pried open the latch, my heart pounding. Inside was a folded letter, a small brass key, and a faded photograph. The photo showed Tom, younger, maybe in his 30s, standing next to Mr. Hargrove, both smiling at a lake. They looked like friends' close friends. My stomach twisted. Tom had never mentioned knowing Hargrove. I unfolded the letter, its paper brittle. It was in Tom's handwriting, dated a month before his death. My breath caught as I read, "Ellen, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry. There's something I never told you, something I was too afraid to face. Hargrove knows. He's kept this safe for me. The key opens a locker at the old bus station number 42. What's inside? We'll explain everything. I love you, always. Forgive me, Tom." Forgive him. For what? My hands shook as I reread the letter, each word a knife. Tom had been my rock, my confidant. We'd shared everything, or so I thought. What secret could he have kept, and why involve Murdoch Hargrove? The key was small, unremarkable, but it felt like a bomb in my palm. The bus station was downtown, a rundown place I hadn't visited in years. Locker 42. I glanced at the photo again, searching their faces for clues. Tom's smile was wide, but Hargrove's eyes held something else: guilt, maybe, or fear. If you found a letter like that from someone you loved, what would you do? Smash that like button if you're as curious as I was. This is about to get insane. I couldn't wait. I grabbed my coat and drove to the bus station, the key burning a hole in my pocket. The station was nearly deserted, its fluorescent lights buzzing like dying insects. Locker 42 was in a dim corner, rusted but intact. I inserted the key, my heart hammering. The door creaked open, revealing a leather-bound journal and a small velvet pouch. I opened the pouch first. A gold locket, engraved with M.E., my initials, but not my locket. Inside was a tiny photo of a baby girl, no older than a year. My mind raced. We'd never had children, Tom, and I had tried, but it wasn't meant to be. Who was this child? I flipped through the journal, its pages filled with Tom's handwriting. It wasn't a diary, it was a confession. 20 years ago, before we met, Tom had been married briefly to a woman named Margaret Ellis. They had a daughter, Lily, but Margaret struggled with addiction, and Tom wasn't ready to be a father. He left, signing away his rights, believing Lily would be better off. Margaret died a year later, and Lily was adopted. Tom never saw her again, but the guilt haunted him. He'd hired a private investigator to track her down, and that's where Hargrove came in. Hargrove, a retired detective, had been the investigator. They'd stayed in touch. Bound by the secret, Tom had wanted to tell me, but he couldn't bear the thought of losing me. I sat there, the journal trembling in my hands. A daughter. Tom had a daughter, and he'd kept it from me. The locket, the photo, it was Lily, out there somewhere, maybe not even knowing her father had loved her in his flawed way. And Hargrove, why give me this now? Was Lily in danger? Was I? The journal's last entry, dated a week before Tom's death, chilled me. Hargrove found her, but someone else is looking too. If they find Lily first, she's not safe. Ellen, you're stronger than me. Protect her, protect her. I didn't even know where she was. I stuffed the journal and locked it into my bag, my mind a storm. As I left the station, I noticed a man lingering near the entrance, his face half hidden by a hood. He didn't follow me, but his presence felt wrong, like a shadow that didn't belong. I drove home, locking every door, the journal's weight pulling at me. Tom's secret had shattered the man I thought I knew, but it also gave me a purpose. Lily was real, and she needed me. If you learned you had a stepchild you never knew, would you search for them? Keep watching. The truth is about to unravel. The next day, I went back varied to Hargrove's house, desperate for answers. His car was still gone, his mailbox overflowing. I called Clara, who agreed to help me search for Hargrove's whereabouts. She dug into public records and found his sister's address in a nearby town. I drove there, my nerves frayed. The sister, a frail woman named Ruth, was hesitant but kind. "Robert's in trouble," she said, her voice low. "He didn't tell me much, but he said he was protecting someone, a girl. He left town 2 days ago. Said it wasn't safe to stay." "A girl, Lily." I showed Ruth the locket, and her eyes widened. "That's Margaret's," she said. "Robert kept it after she passed." He felt guilty, like he failed her and the baby. She didn't know where Hargrove was now, but she gave me his old office address, a storage unit downtown where he'd kept case files. I thanked her and left, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fit, but the picture was still blurry. The storage unit was a maze of metal doors, the air thick with dust. Hargrave's unit, number 17, was locked, but the key from the box worked. Inside was a filing cabinet stuffed with papers, case notes, photos, and a map marked with an address, 19 Pine Road, a rural area an hour away. A sticky note read, Lily's last known location. My heart raced. Was she there? I also found a letter from Hargrove to Tom, dated a month ago. They're closing in. If I don't make it, get this to Ellen. She's the only one I trust. Who were they? I took the map and letter, my mind spinning. As I left the unit, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, but the hallway was empty. My skin prickled. Someone was watching. I drove straight to Pine Road. The address burned into my brain. The house was a small, rundown cottage, its windows dark. I knocked, but no one answered. I tried the door unlocked. Inside, the place was bare except for a single photo on the mantel, the same baby from the locket, now a young woman in her 20s, smiling at a graduation. I was staring at her face when the door slammed open. A woman stood there, maybe 25, her eyes wide with fear. Who are you? She demanded, clutching a phone. I recognized her instantly. Lily. I stammered, I'm Ellen, Tom's wife. I think you're his daughter. Her face paled, and she backed away. That's impossible. My father's dead. Get out. Before I could explain, headlights flashed outside. A black van pulled up, and 2 men in dark jackets stepped out. Lily grabbed my arm. They've been following me, she whispered. Run. We bolted through the back door, sprinting into the woods behind the house. My lungs burned, but fear kept me moving. We hid behind a tree, the men's voices fading as they searched the house. Who are they? I whispered. Lily's voice shook. I don't know. They started showing up after I got a letter from someone named Hargrove. He said my real father was looking for me. I pulled out the journal, showing her Tom's words. Her eyes filled with tears. He didn't want me, she said. Why now? I told her about Tom's regret, Hargrove's mission, the danger. She didn't trust me, not fully, but she agreed to come with me. We needed to find Hargrove and answers. We drove to a motel, keeping off main roads. Lily told me her story, adopted by a kind family, but always wondering about her roots. The letter from Hargrove had upended her life, and the men in the van had been tailing her ever since. I called Clara, who'd been digging deeper. Ellen, be careful, she said. Hargrove was investigating a trafficking ring tied to illegal adoptions. Tom's daughter was one of their cases. They'll do anything to keep it quiet. A trafficking ring? My stomach dropped. Tom's guilt, Hargrove's fear, it all made sense. They'd stumbled onto something bigger, something dangerous. I showed Lily the locket, and she touched it, her voice soft. My mom wore this. I remember it. For the first time, I saw hope in her eyes. We were in this together now, connected by a man we'd both loved, in different ways. If you found a lost family member like this, would you risk everything to protect them? Comment below. This story is not over. The next day, Clara sent me a lead. Hargrove had been spotted at a diner near the state line. We drove there, Lily clutching the journal like a lifeline. The diner was a greasy spoon, its neon sign flickering. Hargrove sat in a corner booth, looking older, frailer. He saw us and froze. Ellen, he said, his voice hoarse, you found her. We sat down, and he told us everything. The trafficking ring had operated for decades, stealing children from vulnerable parents and selling them through fake adoptions. Tom had funded Hargrove's investigation, hoping to find Lily and expose the truth. But the ring's leaders, powerful, connected people, had caught on. Hargrove suspected they'd caused Tom's heart attack, though he couldn't prove it. They're after Lily because she's proof, he said. Her adoption file could bring them down. Lily's face hardened. I'm not hiding anymore, she said. Hargrove shook his head. You don't know what they're capable of. But I saw the fire in her eyes, the same stubbornness Tom had. We made a plan. Hargrove had copies of the adoption files, enough to go public. We get them to a journalist Clara knew, someone with the reach to blow the story wide open. That night, we met Clara at a safe house she'd arranged. But as we handed over the files, the door burst open. The men from the van stormed in, one pointing a gun. "Give us the files," he snarled. Hargrove stepped forward, his voice steady. "You're too late. They're already out." He'd sent backups to the journalist hours ago. The man's face twisted, and for a moment, I thought he'd shoot. But sirens wailed in the distance. Clara had called the police, real ones, not the ring's allies. The men fled, but not before one grabbed Lily's arm. I lunged, shoving him off, my heart pounding. We held each other as the police swarmed in, arresting the men. Hargrove collapsed, exhausted but alive. The files went public the next day, and the story exploded. Dozens of families came forward, their stolen children now adults, demanding justice. The ring's leaders were exposed, their empire crumbling. Months later, I stood in my garden, Lily beside me. She'd moved to town, and we were rebuilding. Piece by piece, Hargrove had retired, his mission complete, though he visited often. No longer grumpy, but warm like the friend I'd never known I needed. I'd lost Tom's memory as I knew it, but I'd gained something else: a daughter, a purpose. The locket hung around Lily's neck, a reminder of the mother we both mourned. As we planted new roses, the sun warm on our faces, I felt Tom's love, flawed but real. But then, in my mailbox, I found an unmarked envelope. Inside was a single photo: Tom Hargrove, and a third man I didn't recognize, with a note. "There's one last secret." My heart skipped. The past wasn't done with us yet. If this story shook you, smash that subscribe button and comment. What would you do if a secret like this found you? Stay tuned for part 2. You won't believe what's coming.